was serendipity. I think a lot of things changed at workplace. My ambitions. My mother-in-law, in fact, sort of encouraged me to, start up.
Yeah.
And I eventually sort of said that, if not now, when? I think fraternity marketplace emerged because it was a very clear need gap, right?
Yeah.
We saw that there are millions of users who are going on Google and searching for fitness near me.
Yeah.
And we realized that there are gyms and studios who do not have their own website and are struggling to get customers. I'm not biased towards only writing angel checks for women entrepreneurs, but I end up doing that. I end up just supporting women entrepreneurs a lot.
Oh, that's lovely. I mean, I was speaking to Nihar of Zandu Pharma, the ZCL Chemicals. They sold their business to Avendus for about 2,000 crores, all online, including the due diligence, the approach, the exit, everything. And they said that they didn't even meet in those 2 years.
Yeah, similar with us. You proved point immaculately.
Yeah, like some people have been approaching since 10 months and I've been like behind them. And then when they come, I'm like, okay, now that I have you, I'm not letting you go only.
Absolutely, be at it.
Exactly.
Wonderful case study.
Welcome Neha to our show Wiping Out the Norm. Such a pleasure to have you. We've met back in 2018 and I'm finally seeing you now. So glad to have you on the show as one of the women leaders who has pioneered a startup in the fitness industry, and I'm so happy to have you and have you share your journey with our viewers today.
Thank you so much, Radhika. It's an honor to be here. And I've been seeing over the last 5 years the amazing things that you've been up to. So super proud and very excited to be here.
And thank you. But for starters, I'd like to know how your childhood journey was like. We are from the same college, NM. I know you're born and brought up in Bombay. So tell me a little bit about your childhood. How were you as a student, as a child? What really interested you? Because, being an entrepreneur is a sum total of all the choices you've made in your previous years. So before we get into your journey of building fraternity, I'd like to know about your childhood.
Sure. No, like you rightly said, I think it's literally the sum total of what you end up building. I think my journey was very sort of simple childhood, born and brought up in Bombay, studious child, nerdy, you could also say that, and always sort of diligent. And I think fitness has been a trend, even from school, participating in sports, wanting to be fit, also comes from what my mom and dad sort of, inculcated. And, but I would say, I think one common theme during, childhood was always wanting to impact and wanting to be always ambitious and, sort of, proving myself, and I think all those factors were always there. And and I think sort of college was very exciting, NM College, and it was actually serendipity, honestly, that led to fraternity. So if you speak to anybody who knew me earlier, and they would be surprised that Neha's doing this, like Neha's figuring this out, because like you said, it actually, you can connect the dot backwards, but you will never be able to sort of predict that something like this happens, right? So, what really culminated out of school and college was taking up a job. My father's a chartered accountant. So, typical sort of, career chart to sort of start in consulting and take it forward, become a partner.
Correct.
So that is what I was intending to do.
Okay.
And then life unfolded and fraternity happened.
Tell me, how did it unfold?
Actually, it's a very interesting story. I was working at Aon Hewitt in consulting, very happy, very excited, working in that space. And I got married in 2013, and I was looking for a yoga class close to the house that I moved into. And this is 2013, 10 years back. Makes me feel old, but 2013 was the age of literally sort of just dial, right? I think startups were just about to really create an impact. I think Uber, I remember Zomato was existent, but it was very, very early and nascent for the Indian startup ecosystem. And I was trying to find a yoga class, and I of course went on to Just Dial. I felt that the experience was really broken in terms of a user having the need
Yeah.
to do something in fitness and being able to actually see an impact.
Right.
And with that thought, I just sort of kept it in my mind, and I went on to continue my job. But it was serendipity. I think
Yeah.
a lot of things changed at workplace. My ambitions. My mother-in-law, in fact, sort of encouraged me to, start up.
Yeah.
And I eventually sort of said that, if not now, when?
Correct.
So I wrote my resignation letter, and I just said that, okay, let's just see.
My God. So when you resigned, were they trying to convince you to stay back?
Yeah, I mean, of course, I think, I was also very excited about the kind of work I was doing, and that did happen. But I sort of remember telling my manager, saying that please hold on for 2 years. If I don't end up doing something, I'll come back. Still that
Okay.
sort of job mindset
Yeah.
and that inertia and that thinking that what if it doesn't work
Yeah.
out. But I think because I got married into a business family, I think my husband and my mom-in-law were both very positive about saying that, what, you'll figure it out,
Yeah.
and you have to take that
Right.
plunge. And that's how it sort of happened.
Wow, this is so interesting, and I think you really need that push sometimes around yourself to get you started and make you see your own potential, which you can't see but others can. And
Absolutely.
when that happens, it actually creates magic.
Correct.
And that's what happened with Fiternity also. But tell me, how did you start up actually? What kind of team members did you hire as your initial few set of people? And you were the only founder, and you had a
And,
co-founder
yeah,
later
correct.
on. So tell me about that story.
Yeah, so I think, it started with me quitting my job and this idea of a fitness marketplace in the back of my mind. But I literally just, sort of after quitting Aeon Hewitt, took time to just meet people and understand what is happening.
Yeah.
And I sort of say this, right? I was banned from LinkedIn because I was sending so many LinkedIn requests. And as a fellow LinkedIn
Yeah, it has
platform,
happened.
you know what I mean. So I literally was out there. I had camped in Bangalore because I loved the startup space, and just meeting people, trying to understand what is happening. And there were a few ideas, and Fiternity was one of them. And I remember one of my mentors, and I asked him that, how do I identify what should I do and what is my calling?
Yeah.
And he gave me this one answer,
Okay.
saying that and he asked me, he's like, what's the, which idea are you most passionate about? So I told him I'm mildly passionate about all these ideas.
Okay.
And he said, okay, which is the idea that 5 years from now you have everything that you want, you have you're financially stable, you have the recognition, you have all of that, but you're still waking up on a Saturday morning and going to work. Which is that idea?
Yeah.
And then just automatically when I was looking through the list, it was the fitness marketplace.
Wow.
Because it was something that, like you said, right, it was a sum total of what I was
Correct.
and what I wanted to do.
Yes.
And it really also was creating impact, right?
But before we go ahead, tell me, which were the other 5 ideas that you had?
I think it was something in the restaurant space, something in B2B corporate space. I don't even honestly remember.
No.
I'm sure they were too immature.
Yeah.
Even Fiternity as an idea was not that evolved, honestly. There were 3-4 facets to Fiternity.
Yeah.
And the marketplace is the one that actually worked well and the others didn't.
Understood.
So there was an erstwhile e-commerce idea. There was a lot built into the Fiternity idea.
Okay.
But what worked after a lot of pivots is the marketplace.
Yeah, and who helped you pivot? You spoke about your mentor. Can you tell us who he or she was?
So actually, the mentor was somebody I sort of worked with.
Okay.
And somebody who knew me, for a while.
Huh.
And it also got validated, talking to my husband, my mother-in-law.
Yeah.
So I think what ends up happening, right, and I think, as women, right, we tend to somewhere, right, not ask for mentorship or not ask for things. And I just feel that was my biggest mistake earlier. That max is that they'll say no, right? So I have reached out to people on LinkedIn, just messaging them and just telling them that, hey, I need help. It would be great if you can spend some time.
Yeah.
Okay, they'll not reply, right? So I think a lot of the mentors that I have sort of, I have had the privilege and honor to have are people who did not know me, are not part of my network, because I did not come from this sector. I did not come from this sort of, track. But anyways, going back, I think I zeroed on Fiternity as a concept. And early on, it was just me. And on LinkedIn, I reached out to a lot of people. And Jayam and I were common friends who sort of later joined. And he and I sort of really went one category by category, focused, and we basically said that, okay, what is it that we want to do 1 year from now. So we really prioritized. And I think to your question about the different pivots that we had, I think it was just him and me sort of trying to say that we are here now. What do we want to do in the next 1 year? And automatically you sort of end up realizing that prioritization is required, because you can't achieve everything with limited resources, limited money. And I think Fiternity Marketplace emerged because it was a very clear need gap, right? We saw that there are millions of users who are going on Google and searching for fitness near me. And we realized that there are gyms and studios who do not have their own website and are struggling to get customers. And the marketplace platform that we created was actually just the right solution, which ended up being a discovery and marketplace platform.
Understood. Wow, it's quite a journey of figuring out what will work the best. Sometimes people just have this outer idea that you get an idea and you start working on it, but that's not true. I mean, you went through so many pivots and then finally zeroed down on an idea that will take shape in the next decade or so. So it's good that you spoke about it, because there is so much of myth around all of this that, okay, if you don't get an idea, you can't get started. It's about getting started and then figuring it out of the way.
I feel that it actually boils down to two things. I think one, the category or the sector that you're trying to operate in. So I think it was very clear for us that fitness and health is going to be one of the key sectors. When we were talking about it in 2013, we knew that it is going to grow, right? With India's population, disposable income, internet penetration, mobile penetration, fitness is going to grow, right? So I think that was very clear. And second is, I think the persistence and the clear intent that whatever it is, we'll figure it out. No matter if it takes 100 pivots or 1,000 pivots, this is a sector we want to do something in. Right? I think if you have these two aspects, you have a large TAM, and you have the ability to be agile and keep on taking bets that you feel you can launch very quickly, see the market perspective, come back, roll out, and sort of pivot. I think if you have these two things, you will succeed.
Yeah, that's true. Tell me one thing that you said with the market, your business was also evolving at the same time. It was going parallelly. So what kind of challenges did you encounter on the way? Do you remember any interesting stories of how your customers would react to it and how you would pivot as per their needs?
No, I think very interesting question. And when I said that we were trying to sort of change with the fitness industry, I think look at fitness, look at the whole shape of the industry 10 years back, right? 10 years back there was hardly any internet penetration, so people knew about a fitness center via physical branding and would just walk in, right? Then came Google and apps and Instagram, and your discovery mechanism for fitness really changed. Your access of fitness really changed, right? Early on, nobody would mix workouts, but suddenly there was a trend that I wanted to do Pilates plus gym. I wanted to do yoga plus martial arts, right? So I think one of the things that we saw, and the trend that actually our users gave us was when we were selling single gym memberships, right? Which is, let's say, Radhika buying a Gold Gym membership, right? And that business was doing well. We had raised capital, and we saw this trend of users doing pay per use at other locations, even if they had a membership, which means that Radhika had a membership at a gym, but she would still try a free trial class or even a paid session for Pilates or for Zumba. And we saw that need gap, and we spoke to those users. And I think the ultimate sort of test of a business is how much are you connecting to your users, right? And I think that's something that Fiternity and the team did very well. We had the grip of what was happening from a consumer usage standpoint with the data that we were seeing on the platform, and we had a very active team that kept reaching out to users and asking them about what trends we were seeing. So I think a clear trend that we saw was users wanting to mix and match workouts, and that's what gave way to launching OnePass. So OnePass is basically a product where users could do multiple workouts, and it gave them the flexibility to work out in Delhi or Bombay, within Bombay, in BKC or Juhu, right? And at that point of time it was fairly new, but we learnt it from our users, right? and that was some of the things that was also very very impactful and felt great, right? Because you are actually trying to build for the user.
Right. Apart from OnePass, what was the other product that you built for your user and saw a massive change in revenues after that?
I think very very early on, we were listing gyms and studios, and we felt, and this is of course naive that we were, back in 2014 when we launched the platform, we said that of course we will put the memberships out there and people will buy, right? So it was like such a simple thesis and assumption that online people will buy memberships just the way they are buying books on Flipkart. And of course it was not true, right? Nobody bought memberships. And I think one of those things that we sort of realized that, what if we do, and I remember Jayam and I on a whiteboard and discussing that, okay, what is that factor that the gyms want and the users want and we are not able to crack it? And it was one of those brainstorming sessions where we said that what if we just add book a free trial as an option? And we're like, but you know what if the gym is not giving a free trial? We said, listen, we'll fund it. Let's just see how it works.
Okay.
And typical sort of very agile, scrappy way of how startups operate. Within 24 hours that was live on the platform.
Okay.
And within sort of 72 hours we had some 500 trial bookings.
Wow.
And every single person in office was taking calls.
Okay.
Because everything was manual, right? Because we were just trying to test whether that functionality will work, and it went bonkers. And then we realized that capsuled inventory or ability to book sessions and not the entire membership online and seeing the entire inventory of what is happening, which now seems so normal and which now seems so, of course I'll start the app and I'll see all the workouts happening near me hyper locally, but at that point of time
it was something very innovative. Understood. Tell me, do you have any interesting hiring story of, for example, how did you hire your website developer or the app developer? Because finding those people in-house working with you, it's very difficult. Of course, outsourcing it, many people can do and are doing. But having that full-time resource with you, who sits with you, ideates and develops, it's quite difficult. So how did you happen to get them in?
Correct. So Radhika, what we did, and going back to I think how we had thought that what is a product market fit plan for us. And we basically felt that we didn't want to invest into in-house resources in tech. So we took a decision of getting it built externally.
Okay.
But we soon realized that with the kind of scale and the agility that we wanted, the trial example, right? We realized that we want to take it in-house. But I think initially it was outsourced, and I think that was a good decision because it gave us the ability to work on the business, and we had outsourced it, and that sort of company delivered the product, right? But as soon as we realized and we took it in our hands, I think of course we had to hire. And again, it worked out of references. It worked out of people I had met with the LinkedIn connections, and it was super helpful because there were so many mentors that I ended up having later on, who were ex Yahoo and ex Flipkart, and they sort of really helped us. And I think the other thing that really worked, and I remember this, that somehow we ended up creating a 1 week trial when we were hiring. It was the most insane thing.
Okay.
So the two requirements that we had is that do you have a laptop and are you okay to work for 1 week free? Free or paid, I don't know. I think we started paying as well. But I think in the start it was that, we are starting out. We don't know how you are. And we don't know, we're taking a bet on you. So why don't we do a week trial, 15 days trial? And imagine people agreed.
That's so interesting.
And people came in, they started working, and and some of them got so integrated into the company that it was no news that they are going to continue, and there was nothing like a trial. And for some people it was very obvious that they are not going to integrate into the culture. So I think we had a very very inclusive, very connected culture from the start, and I think that was one of those hiring things that we did, which I'm sure will not work now.
No, it might as well work. Like how you give the trials to consumers, you also give it to your team members, and it worked both the ways. What better can it be? Wow. Do you think sometimes the investor expectations are much more than what the business could achieve, and sometimes it can bog down the founder under pressure? I'm sure that we all have the privilege of working with good investors, but there are investors in that category as well. So how does some founder really deal with that after getting money from them and then listening that, okay, you're not meeting our expectations. Suppose we want you to multiply 10 into 100 crores in just first year.
Yeah.
So just get it done anyhow. What do you really tell founders in that category to do? What can they do?
I think what would be great to do is to understand the mindset of the investor early on when you're doing meetings with them before taking money, right? And I think they, these things do get established. And this is something that I have seen, that even when we've had discussions, there have been investors who were very clear they wanted to take the business in a different direction versus what we wanted to do. And we were very clear that we do not want to take that capital because that's not how we see the vision of the company going. Right. So I think it's better to establish all of those factors early on, than regretting it later. Having said that, I know of founders who end up having investors on the cap table and have had issues on what they want to do what they want to do with the business versus what the founders want to do. And then you sort of end up having, of course, a mess, but it works out, right? I mean, you offer that investor secondary from some other investor coming in, etc.
Correct.
And then you sort of de-link. But better to avoid that and analyze where you want to take the business versus what the investor expects from you.
That's so true. I mean, a founder is building all because of the vision, and maybe without salary for the first few initial years. And if you come and tell them to do something completely different, what will be in it to achieve? But speaking of that, I'd really like to know that after 2019, it was a COVID year, might be a year of lot of stress for everyone, every business, every kind of physical business. So how did you deal with that kind of an environment for your own business, and told yourself that it's fine, it's just one of those black swan events and life is much more than that? So how did you deal with that environment, that period?
Yeah, so I think, Radhika, like you said, right, it was one of the most challenging periods, I think, of my entrepreneurial journey. I didn't think that after going through everything that we went through, building, pivoting, and finally reaching that stage where we were very happy where the business was, and then suddenly COVID hit, and both Jem and I were just wondering, how will we sort of navigate, right? But thankfully, I think at that point of time, like with everybody else, we felt it was short term, right? It was the next month. It was we would figure it out. And but I think two things helped. I think one, we had really good investors, patient capital, and they had a lot of faith in what we were building. In terms of capital, in terms of just support, I think they were there. And second, the team, right? Within 24 hours, pivoting, like all companies did, to a completely work from home structure where nothing got impacted. I think the team at Fraternity, the core team at Fraternity, really sort of managed everybody well. We continued the business. We completely pivoted from offline fitness to online fitness. And and then we had a very successful acquisition of Fraternity by CureFit. All of that happened during COVID. So bittersweet. Online. But I think one of the most challenging times for an entrepreneur. And now looking back, it sort of feels that how did you do it, right? But just taught you so much.
Correct. I mean, I was speaking to Nihar of Zandu Pharma, the ZCL Chemicals. They sold their business to Avendus for about 2,000 crores, all online, including the due diligence, the approach, the exit, everything. And they said that they didn't even meet in those 2 years.
Similar with us.
So I mean, it's just like changed the world that you can always do things without having to travel. Because sometimes investors call you to these places and you're like, oh my god, I have to travel there, otherwise I won't get the business done. But now you have something to prove to them that you can still get it done.
Absolutely.
But this interview had to be done in person though.
In person, I think never changes. I think the vibe, the connect, and that whole sort of understanding the sort of pulse of the person doesn't come if it is not
correct. But tell me, did you take, because you spoke about the pulse of the consumer, did you do any consumer surveys, speak to each one of them in your fraternities or circles about the idea when you were about to launch?
Absolutely. In fact, I think my husband was at one point of time really tired of me going into social sort of commitments and parties, and turning it into
Oh,
a
God.
fitness assessment questionnaire. Do you work out? How many times do you go? What do you look for in a gym?
They would be like, my God, where am I?
Yeah, so I think I was sort of obsessed. But later on, I think the team took over, and we were always sort of trying to understand the pulse of the customer, because
Yeah.
we were also learning and we were also completely new. So it was very interesting.
Coming to our rapid fire round, which is very interesting. I make it up with the questions I ask. But
Okay.
starting with, what's the best and the worst piece of advice that you've ever gotten?
I think the best piece of advice that I've ever gotten is about take your team and think like your team. Think from their point of view, and how would they want you to be with them as a leader, and not what you want out of them. I
Yeah.
think that has been, and take them along. I think that has been the biggest advice, which I feel has been a game changer.
Who gave this to you?
I think one of my early mentors when I was starting fraternity.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think the worst advice, lot of worst advice, yeah. You don't realize it is worst till you try it, na?
Yeah, you're the first one actually who's telling this, you know. People say कि कोई advice worst थी नहीं, मैंने उसको discard कर दिया, and you're actually truthful and honest to say कि बहुत worst advice मिली है.
हाँ, but you don't know, no, at that point of time you're so naive, you're
Yeah.
trying out everything. So like, हाँ ठीक है, ये भी कर लेते हैं, ये भी कर लेते हैं. At least I was too naive then. And then I realized, oh, this did work.
But pick one.
Actually can't put my finger on one right now, but I think I would say that a lot of people would sort of say that why don't you try out the business this way, that way, especially investors or potential investors that you would meet would have a different vision of the business, like we spoke, and then you would sort of say that, oh, this is not what makes sense, this is not customer centric, this is not how I want to take it, right? And at that point of time, it's very important again to have that team and that understanding of what you are trying to build.
Right. And what's your one regret that you feel that, okay, this is something that I could have done much more nicely, or at some point in my life where I didn't do it?
I think we were very slow with regards to the fraternity journey in terms of course, looking back. I feel that we launched in 2014, and we, 5 years it took us to get to OnePass, B2B, and the business verticals that were, really rightly sort of working well. When I say slow, I just feel that we pivoted a lot. We took a while to get to the business model that emerged. I think we could have done it much faster.
Okay, I love how honest and transparent you are, because so many people just shy away from talking about it openly. But I'm glad that you're doing it. But in this journey so far, have you faced any kind of unconscious gender biases that have come along your way, or maybe you've chosen to not pay attention to it, but it still did exist?
Yeah, so I think we spoke about it earlier, right, Radhika? I think I at least don't feel that gender has anything to do with the product, or gender has anything to do with the business that you're building or the product that you're building, right? Gender is one facet of it, like anything else. But having said that, I talk from the space of a lot of privilege. I come from a place where I was given the ability and the access, and hence I don't feel the bias. Of course, the bias exists. And have I encountered it? I have been lucky to not encounter it. And I think there are people like me, women like me, who have not seen it. And of course, we are the great positive case studies out of it. And maybe we are the 1% or the 0.1% of women out there. And I know that a lot of women face it every single day. And I think the way I would look at it is to make the issue a non-issue. And that's the only way to sort of move forward. Basically brush it past and move on, and next day conquer and move on to what you were working on, literally, right? Just make it a non-issue.
Yeah, that's true. But how do you think platforms like ours and other women communities can really help drive this change?
Absolutely. See, I feel that there's a lot of grassroots level impact that platforms like yours and voices like yours can create, because imagine somebody sitting in Ranchi evaluating whether she should apply for a job, or she should look at joining a friend's startup or creating something of her own. A simple voice, a simple interview, or a simple conversation from you can actually impact that girl's thought process. And I think there is an inherent issue with regards to numbers, right? Number of women who graduate versus number of women who postgraduate, or the number of women in workforce. There is a dwindling number when it comes to how that reduces. And I think that can only change when there is a systematic change that is happening across the board, right? And more women in VC funds, more women as founders, more capital being raised by women. I mean, come on, today, whatever said and done, there is a bias, like 1% or 2% of capital raised even in the US is by female founders, right? And I think that needs to change for sure.
Yeah, that's so true. And I'm sure if we cover more global stories, people will get to know that the biases is all across the globe and not just in one part of the world. Yeah, but coming back to our rapid fire, what is the most fond childhood memory that you have?
Most fond childhood memory would be, so I grew up in a joint family with 3 brothers.
Okay.
I think fighting with them and getting my way around would be one of the most fond memories.
Okay. And what would have been an alternative career for you? Would it be in consulting, like you said earlier?
Yeah, I think consulting. I think definitely a job and climbing the corporate ladder would have been something that I would have done otherwise.
But is it like a regret deep down within you that I could have made a very big partner with a big position, a fat check, or you're very much satisfied?
No, nothing would have compared to this. It would even anything else I would have done wouldn't even have compared to a percentage of what I have done and what I have. I mean, I am truly living my dream. So I would have never imagined starting a business, scaling it, raising capital, getting acquired, and actual wealth creation for investors and team members. I would have never thought about in my wildest dreams that I could do it. So I'm literally living my dream.
Wow, blessed are those people who can say this.
Truly, and happy and privileged and lucky to be, to actually have the right ecosystem and the access, So for me, and one of the things that I sort of now do is, help women entrepreneurs in any way possible. So please, whether it's mentoring, whether it's writing an angel check, I'm super active. And I think it's about giving back. I'm not biased towards only writing angel check for women entrepreneurs, but I end up doing that. I end up just supporting women entrepreneurs a lot.
Oh, that's lovely. And I mean, that's how the cycle works. You start up, you scale up, and then you give back to the same ecosystem to make it work through and through. That's interesting. And what is that one thing that you want to be remembered for?
I think I want to be remembered for somebody who was considerate, humble, and impacted.
Yeah, cool. And what is one piece of advice that you'd like to give to young women entrepreneurs especially?
I think simple advice to them would be, I think 3 things actually, now that I think about it more. I think 1, never be afraid to ask for help. Be out there. At max you will get a no. That's at max. Worst case scenario. Always ask. Always be the pushy person who's trying to get an introduction. Always be the pushy person who wants a meeting, who wants to ask, Radhika, can you get me to meet this person? Radhika, can you please do that? Always be that person. What's the harm? Right? My second advice would be the most prepared person in the room. And I think that's something that my job taught me as a consultant. Doing a meeting, research, see LinkedIn, see everything about that person before you're meeting them. Always be prepared. Always be prepared. I always ask myself that whichever meeting I'm attending, whatever I'm doing, how can I be the most prepared person in the room? And it's just changed the game, and when you keep doing it
Yeah.
often, and that becomes a part of life,
Huh.
you automatically end up just working hard.
Yeah.
And according to me, luck is nothing but, you know, hard work meeting opportunity.
Right.
So that's it. So like, you know, if you are constantly looking at being the most prepared person in a room, you will impact.
Yeah.
And I think the third thing is, and I think women tend to sort of be hard on themselves a lot, I think let serendipity play its role. Looking back, I would have not started fraternity. There was no way I would have been sitting here doing this interview with you. But it was serendipity.
Yeah.
There were changes at my workplace. I decided to quit. And then one thing led to the other. I met my co-founder. We raised money. It all had to happen.
Yeah.
And it was all serendipity. And you have to just sometimes, just wait out, and you will see that this is why it was meant to be.
Wow. It really is giving me goosebumps, you know, when I hear about this serendipity and how things just fall into place without you actually planning. Because like 90% of the people have planned their career path, that okay, CA they will do, engineer, doctor, whatever, and then continue to walk on that path. But what's different about these 10% of the club which is entrepreneurial is that they themselves don't know how they do it, but they have that belief and faith that something good will happen at the end of it.
Correct. But the third point, like the serendipity point, will not work without the first and second. The
Yeah.
first being always be there asking.
Correct.
And never hear no. And second is about the hard work.
Yeah.
Right? So if you do first and second, and then you can just let serendipity play through.
Yeah, that's true. Actually, the first one applies a lot to me. I've been so pushy for this interview, and
You've been absolutely amazing, and I feel like you made me feel guilty. Right?
Oh my God.
So that is great. That is like 10 on 10. That is how it should be. That is
Okay,
like an
I'll do
acid
more
test.
again
You have
with
to do
people.
more. Absolutely.
yeah,
You were
yeah,
phenomenal.
Okay, great. It's good to hear that you're validating it. This
You should
approach.
do a post about
Yeah.
how you get people
Yeah.
to do it, and that is persistence, right?
Yeah, actually.
Like I always wanted to do the interview,
Yeah.
but the way you followed up and the
Yeah.
way you were there, and I was like, you know what? No, this has to be done.
Yeah.
And you proved point
Yeah.
one immaculately.
Yeah, like some people have been approaching since 10 months and I've been like behind
Be at
them, and then when they come I'm like, okay, now that I have you, I'm not letting you go only.
Absolutely, be at it.
Exactly.
Wonderful case study.
Yeah, actually good idea to write a post about it.
You should.
Yeah,
you
I will
absolutely
do
should.
that.
And you are also the most prepared person in the room. I feel that you
Yeah.
always do your research.
हाँ वो तो करना ही पड़ता है. Like this other lady, Geo Studios की CEO Jyoti, who came here the other day. I was like, we are from the same college. She's like, how do you know? I'm like, of course यार, पता करके तो आऊँगी ना मैं. ऐसे थोड़ी आ जाऊँगी randomly.
Right.
But yeah, I love doing those 2-3 things that you said.
Amazing.
And I actually believe in the serendipity, you know, because unless there's magic, there's no, you
Correct.
know, there's no like enjoyment to life. It's just running monotonously.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but tell me about your recent trip. We saw the pictures, and if you'd like to speak about it, like what do you love about travel? What kind of different experiences do you gather and learn from and apply to your day-to-day lives? Because you know, looking at different places, meeting new people, of course, gives you so much more to life than you
Yeah.
thought about it. So, what were your like top 3 learnings from your recent trip?
Wow, I love your questioning, and yeah, and since you already know about my trip, I can't back out.
Correct.
You know, I think I read this somewhere that you know, travel is the best way to find yourself, because
Yeah.
the only way to find yourself is to get lost. And so that's what I love to do.
Yeah.
So I sort of you know, Norway was on the list for a while, and of course I could have settled for a Italy or some other option, but I said no, let's do something which is uncharted. And I think a lot of time with nature. Somehow I feel that nature really sort of heals and gives answers, and has the ability to clear out your mind. So a lot of treks, a lot of being in nature, walking tours, and just sort of being on your feet and eating a lot of food. And
Yet not getting fat.
because of the 20,000 steps a day. And I feel that you know, if I had it my way, which I of course couldn't do while building fraternity, I think I would take a break much more often, because it genuinely reignites and sort of, really decompresses that way in terms
Yeah.
of, you getting back with all the rigor. I think travel for me is an absolute sort of,
Yeah.
meditation course that I do with myself.
Yeah.
And I would really sort of, tell women to travel solo as well. I have done a lot of solo travel and I absolutely love it.
Wow, you're giving me really energetic vibes for my London trip because I'm going alone. Yeah.
It is going to be phenomenal.
So I'm gonna get actually lost somewhere, not in the literal sense, but yeah, to find myself more.
Yeah, absolutely. And you will love
Yeah.
that process, and I think you'll come back wanting more.
Yeah, nice. I'm excited now. But what's the last thing that you did for the first time?
Sorry, last thing that I did for the first time.
Yeah.
I actually attended Tomorrowland,
Okay.
which has been on my bucket list. Which is
Since college.
No.
Then?
It happens in Belgium every year. It's
Yeah, no,
basically
but has it been on your bucket list since college?
yeah, it has been.
Okay.
It has been since a while, and I felt that let's just do it.
Wow.
And it was one of the most exhilarating, fun experiences
Yeah.
I had. So it was, I think, I'm not a music festival person,
Yeah.
but I absolutely enjoyed it.
Wow. Then it must be really good.
Yeah, it was amazing.
It's just like the customers don't need your new product in the market, but you make them love it so much that they come back craving for it. So I think
Correct.
Tomorrowland is one such experience. Well, because our show is wiping out the norm, I'd like to ask you lastly as to if you could mention an instance where you think you have wiped out the norm.
I think I think Fraternity team and our core team had always more women and was always sort of having a lot of females, and our users were always more female
Yeah.
somehow. So I feel that I feel very proud of the fact that I was able to build Fraternity with help of a great team. Women who stood their ground, scaled,
Yeah.
and actually impacted, and we were able to impact the fitness industry.
Yeah.
Literally not coming from it.
Huh.
So many female trainers, gym owners who are females,
Yeah.
and we sort of love the fact that we have in our own little way tried to sort of impact that.
Yeah.
And I do feel that I still feel that I have not done enough.
Huh.
So I think the wiping the norm for me would be hopefully what I'm able to do in the next 10 years by investing and supporting with women entrepreneurs who are themselves wiping the norm.
Yeah,
hopefully.
correct. Wow, that's lovely. But with that, we come to the end of the show. Really loved listening to you about your journey of everything, starting up, healing, traveling, building your team. So thanks a lot for giving us time and sharing such stories in bits and pieces with going into so much of nitty-gritties of each one of those things and having the patience to answer all my endless questions that I had a great time with you on the show.
Thank you so much, Radhika. You are clearly the role model of everything that I have spoken about, and I'm super proud of how somebody from the same college and somebody who I met 5 years back has done so much.
No,
very,
thanks.
very happy to be here. Thank you so much. For having
Lovely,
me.
cool.
Great.